ladies and gentlemen, Ford here from Ford's Tool Reviews. Well, if you guys can remember, a few days ago, I made a video about following OSHA safety guidelines. And a few more days after that, I made a video about drinking lots of water. What I did not mention in that video is what we are going to talk about in this very short video of how much protein you should have in your system and why I believe having more for certain jobs is a must. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, if you do become a tradesman, if you choose to take on the daunting task of fixing things, I don't care if it's cars or trucks or boats, I don't care if you're fixing AC units, I don't care if you're fixing houses, I don't care if you're a roofer, I don't care if you're a distributor, I don't care, technically it doesn't even have to be fixing things, but especially if you're a roofer, and especially if you are a general contractor, or if you are a outdoor mechanic, or whatever you do, you need to consume a lot of protein. I don't remember what the study showed, but quite a few mechanics don't eat enough protein. They get sluggish in their diet. Not in their diet, but in their work because of their diet. Well, they do get sluggish in their diet. And they also have reported that they have low sodium levels, which you definitely don't want to have when you're sweating. And most, not all, but most mechanics is done in an outdoor garage. So, you gotta have sodium because you're gonna sweat. You gotta have water because you're gonna sweat. Your electrolytes are gonna go down. You're gonna be using your muscles a lot, putting wear, tear, stress on them. Therefore, you need protein. You need grains to keep your eyes and ears focused, and you need vegetables to keep your ears and eyes focused, and you definitely need fruits to also stay hydrated. Make sure your sugars are up at a reasonable level. And some people ask me, Ford, what is your diet? What do you eat? When you go out to work on something, what is your go-to food? Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not the best person to follow when it comes to consuming food out on a job site, or a work site, or whatever it is I'm working on. Either in, near, around, or upside down. And the reason I can say this with pure confidence is because I have been caught doing this. Cheating diets, skipping water. I broke the OSHA safety golden rule actually a few times, which is be sure you're well hydrated in your job site and during your work day. And I admit that I have struggled and failed to do that. So I'm going to go over what I believe that everyone should have, especially in these summer months, what you should have, how much you should eat, well, how much is recommended to eat, not should eat, but recommended by OSHA, and then I'm going to tell you guys my little tips, tricks, and tweaks that we're going to do in this video. So the first thing is water. Guys, I said it in my OSHA safety video. There's no skipping through this. You gotta have lots of water. What I would recommend is getting one of those really big water bottles, the ones that hold close to a gallon. Because if you're doing a roofing job or you're doing something outside, you're going to be doing a lot of outdoor work in the heat. You want as much water as possible and pack that thing full of ice. If you want to get a chill chest to put it in, I've heard they're kind of not that good, but if you want to get one for like a work day or whatever, I'm so for it. Or if you want to get a regular insulated cooler. The next thing you need is ice. Now, I'm going to recommend that you have 2 bags of ice. and I'm going to explain why. One of them is to keep your food and drinks cold. Your lunch, your snacks, all that. Heck, if you drink alcohol, which I wouldn't recommend on an OSHA site or on a job site, period. But if you choose to, you can keep a couple of cold ones, cold. It's up to you. But I would not get a black cooler. So the chill chest is out. I don't know who thought the chill chest would be much better if it was white or gray. The color black for a chill chest, not a good idea. And I don't want that spun around. The color of the product for heat, for the sun, not appropriate. That's what I'm saying. You don't want to put something in a black container or it's going to get warm. You don't want to put food in a metal container or it's going to get hot. You don't want your cold food to get hot. And like I said before, I would bring 2 bottles of water. This is probably a violation of OSHA, but I know some people that have actually taken water bottles to their hammers, like where their hammer goes on their tool belts for like roofing, and they've taken carabiner clips and they've put one on each side of their hip so that they don't have to come down, and they get these camelbacks like I have, the blue ones, or the one, or the green one, or pink one, or whatever, and they fill it with ice. They fill both of them with water, so that way they don't have to come down and get water from the cooler. And I think that's pretty cool. I wouldn't recommend bringing a cooler up on a roof and eating lunch on a roof, or staying up on a roof for too long. Also, don't be afraid to take a break. If you guys need to take a break, we had a guy working on something over here, and he went out for the whole day. And we offered him to take a break if he wanted to. He said, if you're getting, overly heated, then come down, sit on the front porch if you want. This is somebody we know, by the way. Cool off, have a drink of water, We got apple juice if you want apple juice. We got, also be kind to your carpenter or your roofer or whatever. And don't be afraid to give them beverages other than water. Because like I said, they're going to be sweating a lot of salt. Gatorades are a must. I know some guys that used to work on carpentry, in the carpentry industry, for roofing and other stuff like that. And they would carry 2 bottles of Gatorade, 2 bottles of water, and a bottle of non-perishable coffee. I even know one guy who did something dumb, but I can understand it. He had a glass jar of Starbucks that he would drink. It was the one with the triple shot. And he would drink that, and he wouldn't come down from the roof for the whole day. And the lady that he was working for offered to let him sit on her front porch if he got overly hot. And, please pardon me, guys, it's almost 4 o'clock a.m. here. But, yeah. I mean, she let him sit in the shade, and he had some drinks, and then he went back up, and then he came back down. There's no shame, guys, in doing that kind of work and taking a 30-minute break. I wouldn't take too long of a break, but 30 minutes sounds fairly reasonable. And the next thing is, roofers, tell your clients that it's hot. I mean, if it's a problem, then your safety comes first. Your safety comes first. And if you start to feel dehydrated, these people that you're working for, they should probably give you a glass of water. That's just my 2 cents. So, water, tool belt etiquette. We didn't talk about this. Guys, it's getting hot. Blazing hot. There is such a thing as tool belt etiquette, and we're going to talk about it. Tool belt etiquette basically means if your toolbox is getting to the point where you can't touch any of the equipment on it, you shouldn't be up on the roof working. You shouldn't be out there working on that item. You shouldn't be around that heating source. Now, I know you have to be for winter stuff, but I'm talking about in the summer, where you're exposed to the sunlight. I can't stress this enough. If your tool belt is too hot to touch, like if you reach for a hammer and it almost burns your hand because you have to grab it from the top, then you need to take a break. It's better than burning your hands. Take your belt off, or just take your tool belt off and, put it in the shade for a few minutes. It'll cool down. You can grab it and you can use it again. You can't grab them from the handle when they're on a tool belt. But I digress. You guys can't see me. There we go. When your tool belt is not in use, this bugs the crap out of me. I see people do this all the time. Not a good idea. What they do is they take their toolboxes, or their metal toolboxes is next. I don't understand the amount of doofusry that goes into these people's minds that have metal toolboxes. There's a reason people are converting to plastics. They're not as tough, but they do save you in the summertime. But I digress. You don't want to leave your tool belt out where the heat can get to it, because when you put it on, you have a risk of burning your arm, your elbow, your hand, your finger, your waist can get burned. Not fun. And metal toolboxes, we're going back to that one. Guys, it's 2018. We don't need to be using metal toolboxes. Metal toolboxes are for winter, when it's cold. If you have to go out on a job site in the winter and you need to carry something, that's when you use a metal toolbox. Using a metal toolbox in the summertime, I'm sorry to say this, is stupid, stupid, stupid. As long as your toolbox is on a grassy area, while I'm working in asphalt, while I'm working in asphalt, you may say, and I'm working in the direct sunlight. Guys, we left a Husky-style toolbox out there all day when we were working on something. It didn't melt to the pavement. It was 95 degrees. The pavement was scorching hot, and it didn't do any damage. Getting yourself a metal toolbox is doing yourself an absolute disservice. You're only hurting yourself. Not to mention only that, but it's going to be hotter inside the toolbox than outside. And guess what's in that toolbox? Metal tools. No. It's like a roastery oven. The temperatures in that thing can peak from around 450 to 550 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, okay, I'm exaggerating a bit, but depending on where you live. For my region, it'd probably be about 300. 250, 300. Still hot enough to burn your hand. So, one thing I definitely wouldn't recommend is pouring water on it, or oil. Just leave it there. Don't try to pick it up. It's got a plastic. If it has a plastic handle on it, you take that puppy to the shade. And you let it sit there, and you don't touch any of the metal tools inside of that thing until it cools. You will be so glad you did, and you will save yourself from burning your hand, or arm, or knuckle, or whatever body part happens to touch the metal. Wear safety goggles, guys. Oh my gosh. Even if you're doing roofing, just wear them, because you're pulling on nails, you're pulling them up toward you. Well, I'm using a crowbar. I don't care. I don't care if you're using a crowbar. What does that have to do with anything? So you're pulling the nail up toward you? That's good to know. Still dangerous, but still very dangerous. Anyway, gloves were what we were doing. We were wearing gloves nonstop. And while we're on the subject of gloves, unless you're working with something electrical, this is going to sound so stupid. If it's hot enough, dunk your gloves in some water. Dunk your gloves in water. I'm telling you, this is a great idea. It'll cool your gloves off, it'll cool your hands off. It'll technically probably cool down the tool that you're handling, should it be in the sun. And it will reduce the chance of burns even more than just having regular gloves. And finally, for my lawn care people, we're going to do a couple of really quick safety things for lawn care. Number 1, never park a lawnmower that's been running in the sunlight. At all. Ever. Park it under a tree. Park it in the garage. Park it in the carport. Park it in the boat port. I don't care. Park it underneath the awning. That engine is hot, and it's only going to get worse as it's sitting out in the sunlight. So, and you have gas and oil in there, by the way, too. Just letting you know. It's also good for the transmission and on the lawnmower. So, and your seat that's going to hold onto your rumpus roast while you're sitting on it. Push mower's the same way. It's metal. That's another thing. It's metal. I would also recommend testing the throttle before every use. Making sure that the high speed goes high, the low speed goes low, that the choke is engaged. Make sure that's all working. Make sure your headlights aren't burned out on your mower if it's new. Try not to mow at night. A lot of people, guys, you're not doing yourself any favors for doing this. I'm sorry. I'm not going to recommend people to mow at night. That's not going to happen. I've done it before. It's dumb. I'm never doing it again. Because if you're working around a ditch, or you're working around a terribly large hole or whatever, then you know on the property, you never know when you're going to hit that thing. Rocks, twigs, leaves. I know it's hot. If it's really that cumbersome, just pay for a riding mower and then pay what you want back afterward. But anyway, guys, use hearing protection on most power tools and lawnmowers. I do. You guys have seen my video on that stuff. And, safety vests. Whether you're on construction or not. I had one guy yelling at me while I was working on the roof that I was stupid for wearing that safety vest. And one of the time the ladder almost fell down, and the only reason they could see with me almost all the way up to the top, I was fortunately that I was OSHA trained and I know what I'm doing. So I caught it, but it could have fell over, and if I wasn't wearing that safety vest, no one would have seen me. So wear that irritating OSHA safety vest. Save your life. Possibly. Hard hats. Admittedly, I wasn't wearing a hard hat for the roofing job, although I can kind of see now where my error and my mistake was of not wearing one. So next job that we do sort of like that, we're going to be doing we're going to get a OSHA approved either yellow, white, or orange hat. The hat I was wearing offered no protection. It was the Indiana Jones hat that you guys have seen. That's what they call it anyway. And I was wearing gloves. I was wearing steel-toed boots. That's another thing. Keep your feet safe. Keep your feet washed. You're sweating all day in those boots. And if you're not wearing steel-toed boots on a job site, you may want to think about that, because that's dangerous. I had one guy a couple years ago. I was working with one guy, and he came very close to dropping a circular saw on his foot. And had he not been wearing those steel-toed boots, he probably would have lost 3 of his little piggies, toes, and probably lost quite a few other limbs too. So, yeah. Last but not least, if it's hot outside, wait till the evening time or early morning to do things, and then do things inside and around your house, in the AC, if you can. Right now is a good time to do home renovation indoors because of the heat, as long as you're not messing with the air conditioning unit. I could go so much farther on with this video, but I think I've made my point. Guys, we got a very hot summer coming ahead. We topped off over where I live. I think it's around 88.5 degrees today, give or take a little. So, definitely stay safe. And, keep on fixing. I'll see you guys in the next video.